Okay, Dr. Bob, take it away. Thank you for joining us.
You're very welcome. I'm glad to be with all of you. And what I'm going to try to do is be a little slower today and cover a few important ideas. And then we'll take time at the end to do what in psychology is called basically visualization, being able to relax through visualization. So I'm going to jump a little bit around the various topics that we said we'd try to cover today. But it is very important that number one, stress is what we're kind of focusing on. And with stress, terms like anxiety and fear, other things will be part of what we'll deal with. And we'll talk about the hormones, and many of these hormones are actually called neurotransmitters as well, and how they do it. But how do we really deal with the situation right now with COVID? It's important to handle stress all the time, but during COVID, we have seen that certainly things have become worse. So for us, just as a plant needs soil in order to be able to grow, so too our mind and our body needs to be fed properly. And so the bottom line for all of this is that, first of all, we need to focus on healthy eating. It is extremely critical. And I put the word fiber there in the box because most of the things that we really need to help us with not only reducing disease, but reducing anxiety and stress, as well as producing and creating good hormones, good neurotransmitters, fiber, and the ability for the bacteria to live on that fiber is one of the most important things that we can do. And we did talk about that when I did the lecture live a while back. But it is very critical to understand that what we really need to work on is making sure we eat a wide variety of fruits, a wide variety of vegetables. This can also include beans. It can also, of course, be whole grains that can be part of our diet. We need quality good oils, especially things like olive oil and the omega-3s or fish oils. And all of these, especially if we eat a variety of them, allow the good bacteria to become more common in our intestines. And this not only increases our good hormone production, but it also reduces the anxiety and stress from the bad bacteria otherwise that would be growing in our intestines. So next, we always need to be moving and exercising. Need to move. That means even if you feel like you can't exercise well, you can't go to the club, there still are things we can do. And most importantly is getting up frequently, moving around, and of course, ideally taking walks. Get outside, breathe the clean, fresh air, and move. And if you can do any forms of exercise, anything you can do, go ahead and do. The third thing I put here is also dealing with the problem that we have, especially now that we're inside more. And I'm one that has been caught by it as well, trying to keep up with things on the news and watching TV. It depresses us. And as we get depressed, we also get anxious because we see negative things happening all over our country and our world. And that creates so much badness inside of us as we take in all of these things. So I would encourage you to reduce your television watching of shows that are not helpful or useful to you. Be careful with news. Try to get good summaries so you know what's going on, but don't focus on particularly the news shows where they are putting a lot of opinion in. Try to lower that. And I put the word gossips in here. That's one of those old-fashioned words I grew up with. But basically, even with the internet now, we're getting so many messages from all sides of everything that basically are trying to tell us things that we really don't need to know. So I don't care what happened to some famous movie star. It doesn't really matter. It's not going to affect my life. So I'd rather not know very much other than just a few important factors. Say if they died, that would be important. But I don't need to know about all of their marital problems or anything like that. So try to focus on good things. And that really gets to the next thing. Learn something new. As we take our mind and we put our mind toward learning something, it actually helps us in so many great ways, because we can learn things that can help make our lives better. And I assume all of you that are on or will listen to this on tape are some of those people who want to learn more. And so I would certainly encourage that. Even for me, I'm sorry, hit a little button there. My 13-year-old kind of amazes me. He knows more of the TED Talk people than I do even. And so he's spending his summer learning lots of new information, much of which is actually very excellent. So if you're not familiar with TED Talks, look it up and you'll find some wonderful things. There are some things I certainly would encourage you to avoid, but there's a lot that's good. And also when we deal with issues such as dementia, remember that even attempting to learn a foreign language, you don't have to become good at it. But even if you attempt to learn it, you actually can preserve your cognitive functions and your ability for abstract thinking. And so I would certainly encourage you to keep moving on in every way. And there's so much available now. If you go online, you'll find tremendous amounts of things. And I don't even mind putting together a suggestion list if that would be like for the newsletter. Your mental health depends on what you feed it. So what are you feeding your mind? That means the choices that you're going to feed it, healthy things or unhealthy things. And your mind and your body are going to respond, because whether it is information or feelings that you're feeding in that are negative, your body will have negative repercussions, but the same thing for your mind. So I want you to feed them everything good, new information, good exercise to get that blood flowing and bring fresh nutrition, and then of course bring in that nutrition to make everything better. Two of the hormones that, three actually, that I want to talk about here, and there's, you can find listings if you ever want to look up what we call neurotransmitters. But neurotransmitters are a group of chemicals or hormones that in the brain, they're the ones that help send the messages from neuron to neuron so that we can think, we can act, we can do things. And most of these neurotransmitters also operate as hormones when they're in the blood. But we basically keep a barrier between those that are in the blood and those that are inside of our neurons, so we can try to keep control of our system. So if we want to raise serotonin and dopamine and GABA, we do need to tweak our diet. And that really means we need to try to improve it. And we're going to look at a couple suggestions in a minute. We also need to get consistent good sleep, because it is really this sleep that is so important. And even for other hormones, such as human growth hormone, that's one that we kind of think about as only being for those young babies and children that need to grow. But human growth hormone is the hormone that helps us heal. And when do we heal? We heal at night. So with good sleep, we raise the levels of most of these neurotransmitters and hormones, and we even allow that human growth hormone to heal our body and our mind. Another suggestion that you'll see commonly on the internet is to take a vitamin D supplement. And this can be helpful for a number of these, but it's very useful for so many functions within the body. And we're finding out tremendously new, wonderful material about it. There also is some idea that it may actually help prevent COVID infections. So I certainly want to leave that in at this point and remind us that we really do need to. Sorry, my keyboard is really touchy here. So go for a walk in the sunshine. We need to get out for that exercise, and walks are one of the best things. Matter of fact, the sunshine can be beneficial because it also can give us a little bit of vitamin D, but even more importantly, if you can take that walk in a place where there's green. And that's why I try to put some plants into my PowerPoints today, because I want us to think about green therapy. When we go out in God's creation, the colors of that creation, especially the green, can help our body heal. It reduces anxiety to go out and to see green. So this also means that just going out and gardening, seeing the plants, getting that chance outside can be very healthy for us. So get out, even if it's difficult, and try to find a little bit of time to see green, and don't be afraid of looking at plants in any kind of way. Take steps to lower stress. And we're going to talk about a few of those steps today, but it has to be a deliberate action. Stress we don't get rid of unless we actually plan. So that good diet, good sleep, taking vitamin D, going for a walk, all of these things help. But we have to make the plans, and we have to do deliberate actions, especially at times when we feel that stress building up, that anxiety starting to take over. And lastly, on this slide, it says relationships also play a role in boosting happiness. And this is a hard problem during COVID-19. But this is a time when you might want to give somebody a call that you haven't been in contact with. Maybe visiting will not be good, but give them a call, email people. Take the time to build relationships, even if there isn't that close proximity that we would like. Not being able to hug them is hard, but maybe we can hug them virtually by getting together in some way, even if it's just messages. And I would encourage even just writing out a card that you can send in the mail, because so many of us are just so happy and so surprised when we get something in the mail that can really make our day. So let's think about relationships, and every week work on one relationship, do something to make it a little better. Now let's go ahead and take a look at those hormones and neurotransmitters that need charging. In other words, they don't do the job unless we give them the opportunity to, by making them and giving them the time to be able to function. That first one is serotonin. This is one of my favorite neurotransmitters and hormones, because this is one where I can often talk about good nutrition. This is one of those hormones that is created by an amino acid called tryptophan. And so having healthy foods such as turkey, having good healthy foods such as fish, nuts like pecans, all of these provide that tryptophan, and we need to have that tryptophan taken into our brain cells, into our neurons. And what does that require? It requires our sugar to be at the right balance. So with people whose sugar balance is going up and down during the day, whenever that sugar gets low, they actually feel depressed. Why are they feeling depressed? In part because they're not making this feel-good hormone, this hormone of happiness called serotonin. So what we need to try to do is moderate that sugar, keep it even, because we don't want those lows and to become depressed during that time. And so if we can keep that sugar level at nice rate, between 80 and 100 ideally, then our body can take that amino acid tryptophan, it can be hooked by the sugar, and it can be brought into our neurons, and we're able then to make the serotonin. The other thing, by the way, that we make with that amino acid tryptophan is we make the hormone that helps us sleep properly at night. And this hormone called melatonin, because it happens in the dark, it's made when things get dark, remind us that we need, when we prepare for bed, to turn down our lights, get rid of as much light as we can. And if we've had good nutrition throughout the day, then we're going to make melatonin, and that gives us a good quality of sleep where we can make all of our hormones properly. So think about this hormone of happiness. Let's try to get it high, and remember then that this will help us have that good sense of ease, comfort, and general happiness. Because depression itself will increase fear, will increase distrust, and these emotions can be very harmful to us in all aspects of life. The next hormone over is GABA, and I'm just giving a few details here, but this is a gamma aminobutyric acid. And this neurotransmitter is very important because it reduces anxiety. So the whole brain, when it starts becoming anxious, if we can send out messages using that neurotransmitter, it actually reduces the anxiety, relaxation will increase. And one of the ways that we can actually promote that is using probiotics. So yes, yogurt, kimchi, sauerkraut that's not overly cooked. These can be very helpful to actually help raise that level because they're providing the chemicals needed to make this gamma aminobutyric acid. The next one is dopamine. And many of us are familiar with dopamine because dopamine is the neurotransmitter that tends to drop off in people that have diseases such as Parkinson's. And so that loss of that neurotransmitter creates either that loss of control, so we get that vibration in our hands, or we get complete loss of movement altogether as one of the effects. This is often called a feel-good hormone because in general it helps us feel better overall. It helps with sleep and is made during sleep. We also need to make sure we have proteins and good levels of protein and we're digesting them properly in order to make them. And probiotics also helps provide some of the base chemicals that we can make it from. Another way to help produce this is through meditation and through exercise. And as part of our diet, we need to reduce our saturated fats. And saturated fats are those oils and fats that are hard at room temperature. And most of these would be things that we would call animal fats. And so if we can reduce those animal fats, have other kinds of good quality fats like olive oil and fish oil, we can actually increase the production of dopamine. The next neurotransmitter that I'm mentioning is one called endorphins. And endorphins became very popular a few years ago when we started talking about that runner's high. So the runner's high is that if we really pushed with exercise, what we'd see is that we would get a response where if we pushed beyond what we thought maybe we even should do, we'd start finally pushing past the pain of the exercise. So when you're a runner running long distance, you want to get to that point where you kind of cross over and the pain in your body is released. And we know that if we can increase endorphins, we also reduce pain in general. But how do we create this? Exercise. So one of the most important things to do is find some way that we can exercise any part of our body, even if it's just getting out and having a good walk in the sunshine, especially in the forest. And by the way, when I say the word forest here, we should remember that another name for that green therapy is sometimes called forest therapy. Getting out and seeing that forest, that green, will actually raise all of our emotions and improve them. Meditation is another one that is good for this. Laughter is another form that's also very helpful. When we have a good belly laugh, we actually make endorphins and can reduce the pain in our body. And then one for fun. I'm a person who loves chocolate and have worked with chocolate, creating recipes that use chocolate even in main courses, and trying to study the whole process of chocolate from the rainforest to our table. And so this is a great thing, especially dark chocolates can be very helpful to help give us that little extra benefit of lowering our blood pressure and reducing pain in our body. Big concept. This PowerPoint background material that I got, they used that word there and I decided I liked that so much. I'm going to give you two big concepts that I really want you to think about. And one is the word smile. So I want you all right now, even if you can't see me, to go ahead and smile. Smile big and try to put that smile on your face and keep that smile on for as long as you can. because smiling is one of the most important things you can do, because you are telling your body when you smile to relax, and your smile, through the reaction of all the muscles, is sending a message to the brain that says, I'm happy. So even if you didn't think you were happy, if you simply smile, your brain thinks you are happy. And it begins to create these neurotransmitters and hormones that help create a truer relaxation and truer happiness. And we have found that to be true in so many ways. This is something we keep talking about in many of the types of work that I've done, where we want people to display and act out the way they want to feel. And maybe we can come back and talk sometime about how to be and act like, act if you are a certain way. And smiling is that way. I always try to get my students in classes to smile, because if they smile, they're more receptive to the information, because their mind is willing to accept rather than having that little bit of anxiety and depression that remains. Now, one example, by the way, years ago is when they first started using Botox. They actually put it in some individuals where they used it in the muscles, where when they put the Botox in, it created a smile. And because that smile stayed on for days and weeks, in many cases, they actually found that many of these individuals didn't have to take their medications for depression. Because when you're smiling, when your face is sending that message to your brain tries to make it real. And so by being forced by muscle contractions into having a permanent smile on their face, these medications such as SSRIs were not needed by the individuals, and they created their own good feelings. And actually a study out just a couple weeks ago confirmed that your brain actually does think that you are happy, and it creates these neurotransmitters and sends that message throughout your brain and your body that you are happy if you are smiling. So even when you don't feel like smiling, please smile, because that smile is actually going to make you feel better. And if you can have other people smile, just ask them to please smile at you and for you. That can be wonderful, because these hormones and neurotransmitters will increase. Now, this again brings us back to COVID. What's one of the problems we have in COVID is even when I go grocery shopping, I try to smile and make eye contact with almost everybody that I cross. I guess I just love to do that. When I have that mask on, though, that blocks me from that ability for my smile to be seen. Though I do think a lot of times people actually do realize you're smiling because of the other changes in your face. And so when I put on a good smile, when I see somebody, especially somebody I know, it amazes me that they'll frequently stop and pay attention, because that smile is coming through in multiple ways throughout the whole body, even though my actual smile may be hidden under the mask. So while we don't get that smile back from individuals, pay attention. You might be surprised that you can actually see the smile and that can be helpful to you. And yesterday when I was looking at examples of masks for kids to go to school, one of the big things was that they're making these masks with clear plastic so that the mouth and the smiles can actually be seen. I'm not sure how comfortable they are, but the neat thing about those clear plastic pieces is it allows children that need to read lips to be able to, because they can't hear, it allows them to function more normally in the classroom. But I think probably even more importantly for most of our children is when they can see smiles It'll make them feel better because smiles are catching. I've tried that. If I come into a group and I smile big and look around and smile big, you kind of notice people will smile back. Even if they may not want to smile back, I don't care, because if they smile back, I've just improved the quality of their life. Why? Because their good neurotransmitters are increasing. So please smile no matter what. One of the best things you can do is smile, even when you don't feel like it. Smile in the worst times, the hardest times for the caregiving. Smile, and you will feel better, and the person getting the smile will also feel a little better. The other big concept is laugh. And this is kind of a hard one because it seems like life is harder than it should be. It's so hard now during COVID, and it was hard for all of us who have to take care of other people. And yet it's so important sometimes to just break the spell and to laugh. Laughter is like letting sunshine into your mind while you remove. And with that laugh, breathe out that sludge of the toxic metabolism that's accumulating with all of your bad emotions. So get rid of those negative emotions out of your mind and out of your body by just having a good laugh. And that'll vary for each of us. My wife loves to look at some of these strange videos that she gets through her smartphone, and she'll sit there laughing, and it's wonderful, even if I don't think they're funny. But then I'll find certain shows that I love, and I just can't help but having a good belly laugh. Even right next to my toilet in my bathroom, I keep a book of one of my favorite cartoons, and it's ones I haven't seen before. So sometimes I just read through 2 or 3 of these little cartoons, and all of a sudden I'll get a good belly laugh, and it makes my day better. So just like the solar panels in the picture, remember that laughs can energize you and improve the quality of your life and everyone around you. Matter of fact, when my wife is laughing hard, even at her silly videos, it makes me have to smile. It makes me sometimes have to laugh at her, but that's okay, because that makes both of us better. The third thing I really do want to focus on, which is a real problem during COVID, is that issue of touch. Touch, physical touch between 2 individuals. And by the way, I always mean appropriate touch, because this is one of the problems we've had in our society. And I think one of the reasons why depression has increased is we are afraid to touch. So many people have become where I don't want to hug, I don't want to touch, and yet I'm one who still would really prefer to be shaking everybody's hands. And even when I go to church, when I shake hands, I often will take my second hand and hold their hand in place for a short while, partly because I like to do that, but I also believe that it actually benefits them. Just touching another individual lowers their pulse rate, lowers their blood pressure. So touching is, I think, one of the most underappreciated things that we can do so simply. Maybe it's just a pat on the back. But why is a pat on the back important? Because it's physical touch from somebody. Why do hugs feel so good? Because they're physical touch. Why does a kiss, even a kiss on the cheek, feel so good after we get one or give one? It's because of the physical touch. And this brings us to a hormone called oxytocin. And if you read the anatomy physiology books, and they're monstrous books with a lot of details, when you read in there, you'll see oxytocin is important for helping the baby to be born and for mom's milk to be expressed. And they don't even talk about what to me is one of the very critical things of oxytocin. And that is that this hormone is made when we're touched. And so touch needs to be something that we experience. It's called often the hormone of touch. It's sometimes called the bonding or the cuddle hormone. Sometimes people try to bring it into a sexual realm because this is one of the reasons why sex feels good, and people even, I say, in inappropriate sex somehow feel that need for it because that hormone oxytocin is produced, and we crave that oxytocin. We actually crave it and need it, even if we don't realize that the way to get it is through touch. So we need to touch appropriately. One of the things I try to do with my 13-year-old is touch his face, touch his neck, touch his arm. I try to give him a hug several times a day. And I try to make some physical contact, even if it's just touching his hand and trying to get his attention that way and focus him to respond to me. But there's actually a second reason. It's not just because I want his attention. It's actually because I realize that touch will be so important to his physical and his mental and his emotional health by doing that. And I think this is what we miss so much. So if any of you are parents or grandparents, please make sure that you touch your children, your grandchildren. Make sure that everybody that we come in contact with is touched, even those people that we need to care for. What might be one of the most important things we can do for them is maybe just to make some physical contact, touch their arm, their shoulder, touch their hand, hold hands. Holding hands, so powerful in so many ways. And this is what I want to ask. Could the reduction in people being touched and the reduction then in oxytocin during this whole COVID period be part of the reason that we've seen these increases in anxiety, increases in depression? And I can tell you this is all over the news media. It's in many of the publications that I read that are sent out to medical professionals and to scientists, kind of bemoaning that this is happening, and yet we're not doing the simplest thing to be able to help reduce it. Now, by the way, the good news, and I haven't seen much detail about it yet, is that there's some preliminary data showing now that depression is starting to lessen in the American public. Why? A little bit of it may be that we're getting out more. Certainly in huge population areas like New York City, people are out more because COVID is more under control. But also we're starting to do more things like reach out. And even that emotional bit of reaching out allows us to do things. And by the way, don't be afraid to give yourself a little massage as well, because that can also help at least somewhat in increasing your oxytocin. A few tricks. These are more physical, but they all also deal with our nervous system and, of course, our hormones. And the first one is a little trick called the eye roll. And this is one of my favorite little tricks because the eye roll is so simple. And if you really just think about it as taking both your eyes and trying to look up at the top of your head, say about an inch back where your coronal suture is, right there. Just kind of put your finger back behind your hairline and raise your eyes up as if you're trying to look at it through your skull. Hold your eyes there, and as you hold them, finally relax and roll them down. And this simple technique of the eye roll instantly slows your brain wave patterns. This means that we can instantly go from where our brain wave has got these messages firing all over and is creating anxiousness and it can immediately start to move down toward what we call the alpha state of relaxation. And alpha is the light relaxation that we try to go into when we meditate, when we do yoga. Almost all these techniques for relaxation try to get us down into alpha. And we can get there almost instantly by doing that simple eye roll and bringing our eyes back down. It allows us to enter that relaxed state, and we can take control of our emotions then. And we can also use that with others. This is a trick that I've taught to nurses for years. I've done every 3 months, I've helped train nurses in the Prisma Health system. And one of the techniques I try to do is how to take control of yourself when things get anxious, when you want to be able to have a clear mind so you can do a procedure straightforwardly. Oh, by the way, our memory is better when we relax. And something else is very important. We can help other individuals take control as well. So one of the things we can do is with somebody as they're starting to show anxiety, just ask them if they can roll their eyes up and then hold it, and then roll the eyes down. And what can we say? We can say thank you. Because what we've just done is not only helped us deal with an anxious person, but we've actually just reduced some of that anxiety. There is a connection, and we don't understand it well, but when our eyes roll upwards, our brain immediately begins to slow down and take better control. Another thing that deals with issues such as acupuncture or acupressure, even massage, is that there are parts of our body that if we press on them or put a pin in them, as in acupuncture, it creates a response where the nerves send a message to the brain and the brain interprets it in a certain way. And two examples. One is that if we use a pressure point, which is right between our eyebrows, right above, right where the ridge is here, you can push right in there and just push in and hold that. And it actually does, as we hold it for a while and then repeat it, allow our anxiety and our stress to be reduced. Another place we can do that is on our wrist. And if you look at the wrist and look at the lines, the folds here, just think about putting your thumb right over those folds on the side with your little finger, your pinky, and push down on that thumb. And again, push down, hold that as in the, between the brows, hold it for 30 seconds to 45 seconds, and then repeat it a second, maybe a third time. And this again is a physical way to help try to bring down that stress level because of the feedback to the mind. The third method is a very important one, and we're going to tie this into our next suggestion in a few minutes. And this is where we do deep breathing with muscle contraction. And what we need to do is we need to breathe in and contract a set of muscles where we're feeling the stress. And that, for some of you, might be the shoulders. For many people, the shoulders is where we feel a lot of stress. Many individuals, it's the neck. Other individuals, it might be the muscles of the jaw. A few other people might feel it lower in their body, like their abdomen or their back, even into their thighs. It doesn't matter which, and you can use it for all of them, but basically breathe in, always through the nose as you hold that, and then tighten up those muscles, hold them very firm, as tight as you can, and then breathe out through the mouth and let those muscles relax. And you can do that several times to try to get that muscle relaxation completed. You can also do this, by the way, at night when you're trying to fall asleep. If you have trouble falling asleep, just simply start at your forehead and work down, or more commonly, I recommend people start with their feet, then their calves, then their thighs, then their abdomen. And while you're doing your abdomen, also do your lower arms and your fists, and then work up. And when you finally get to your upper chest, your shoulders, and your neck, most people will fall asleep by this time. But remember, contract them while you breathe in, hold for a long count, and then relax those muscles at the same time you breathe out. So let's go with this, because the whole process of doing that deep breathing in multiple ways is really quite easy. And when you're going to try to do relaxation, whether you're doing the muscle contraction or not, you need to focus on yourself. Focus on that breathing. Feel it. Think about it. Relax and go to your happy place. And that happy place can be anywhere where you feel happy. It can be that nice warm beach as you're watching sunrise or sunset. It can be laying on nice cool grass along a mountain stream as you hear that water go down little waterfalls. It could just be the most comfortable chair you've ever laid in. It doesn't matter. And as you start going there, we want to go through slow and deep breaths. And we always want to do at least 3 deep breaths. When we're trying to relax, always at least 3, and you can always do more. Always in through the nose. Then we have to hold that breath, and then we have to breathe out through the mouth. And there's actually very good benefits. We actually understand that when you breathe in through your nose while you're studying, you're more likely to remember what it is you're studying. So breathe in through that nose because everything enters your body. Breathe out through your mouth. And what I like to always add is what we call positive in, positive out. So when you breathe in, I want you to breathe in thoughts that are good. Thoughts like success, like love, like joy. Fill yourself with those and feel them going into your lungs, and then feel anything in your body that doesn't feel good, whether it's fear, whether it's anger, whether it's frustration, anxiety, anything that doesn't feel good. Let it move to your lungs to take the place of the good, and then imagine it leaving when you breathe out through your mouth. Get rid of it. Don't keep the bad inside. Breathe it out. Breathe in the good, because there is so much good in this world, from family, from friends, from God, from so much of this wonderful world, and yet get rid of what isn't good by breathing it out. So let's go ahead and begin this process and just do a quick relaxation where we can relax, we can visualize. There's lots of words we can use. But right now, if I can ask all of you to please relax, turn inward, feel and listen to the beat of your heart. And even as we're breathing in, as we begin to relax, let the breaths slow down, and know that each breath is filling you and sustaining you. So let's, as we want to go a little bit more relaxed, do 5 deep breaths. And with these breaths, I want you to fill yourself with love with one of the breaths, then joy, then hope, then satisfaction, and then deep and abiding love. So now, as you breathe in deeply, feeling that love from your family, your friends, from God, also feel the gentle wind of the world, bringing refreshing, light warmth to our skin, to our body, filling us with relaxing energy for our mind to be renewed, for the renewal of our bodies, as that air fills us with inspiration, indwelling inside of us. And let this gentle breeze blow away any apprehensions, freeing us from the weights that prevent us from loving others the way we should, loving ourselves the way that we should. So now I want you to go ahead and close your eyes if you haven't closed them, and breathe in a second deep breath. And as you do that, I want you to think of joy, all of the joy that you've ever experienced in this world. The joy, again, of friends, of family, the joy of being successful, the joy that comes from God, true joy. And as you breathe that in with a deep breath through your nose, holding that breath, letting that joy penetrate to every cell, and then breathing out the anxiety of the day. And go ahead and for a moment, open your eyes and look at that sunrise that's before you. It's a sunrise if you are wanting to think about the joy that is still ahead, the wonderful good that is ours if we claim it. Or that can be the sunset, the ending to a successful day, a time to begin to relax, a time to refresh, a time to be renewed. So go ahead and breathe in another deep breath. And as you breathe in slowly through your nose, fill your lungs, and then hold that breath that's filled with wonderful satisfaction. Satisfaction for the good things that you have done, for the good that other people have shown. And as you let that penetrate through your body, go ahead and get rid of and breathe out any anger over anything that has happened. Breathe it out. Get rid of it. Get rid of that toxic sludge. And now let's breathe in again. Breathing in through the nose. Breathing in deeply, full and wonderful. Deep, abiding love. And as you breathe that deep love in, remembering the love, maybe of a parent, maybe of a brother or sister, maybe of someone that loved us so deeply, possibly a spouse, our good friends, that love from God. Deep and abiding love, and let it penetrate to every cell, and then breathe out every bit of fear. Get rid of the fear and feel the renewal as good things fill you, and the negative is breathed out with each breath. And each time that we practice this, breathe in things that make us feel good, the good that does exist, the good that we've experienced by having a place to go like Lisa's, where we can talk to other people who understand, where we can have support, where we have people who care, not because they have to, but because they want to. Breathe in all that good and practice breathing out the frustrations of life, because those frustrations don't help us. So breathe them out of your mouth, eliminate them. And the more we practice breathing in the good, feeling that love and breathing out those things that keep us from being our best. Every time, every day, being a little better. Even as we get older and things get harder, we find that we can go to our happy place, to our comfortable place, thinking of that warm beach sand, warming our body, taking away the aches and the pains, and breathing out those aches and those pains, thinking about that wonderful place in the mountains where we were relaxed, listening to that water just flow, or that beautiful forest where the trees were so gorgeous and the birds were singing, breathing in that wonder of the nature, of the songs that they sing, and breathing out the toxins of urban life, letting them go, the toxins of work, letting them go, and becoming renewed and refreshed for everything that comes. So now, as we become more awake, slowly bringing our mind and our body back to this moment, no matter where you're sitting, no matter how comfortable it is or isn't, relaxing, feeling more comfort by breathing in the good and breathing out the bad. And now coming back to this moment when we can now, as we run out of time, ask a few questions, or we can depart ready and renewed to have better days every day by getting rid of that stress and improving our minds and our bodies for all that we need to accomplish. And let me say, from my background, I want to say, Amen. Let it be. So, Amen. And thank you for your time and your patience with me.
Thank you, Dr. Bob. Wow, I think we're all probably in a deep, relaxed state right now. So let's try to remember those questions that you had thought about. I know we have one that was submitted earlier in the chat.
Okay, I'm sorry I didn't see it anywhere.
No, that's okay. One of the things I wanted to mention that I really am glad that you discussed, Dr. Bob, is the importance of touch. And that's something that our caregivers in particular can be using with their loved ones. So it's not just important for us, but you know, those that are living in facilities right now and aren't getting that touch and that connection, many of them are experiencing a failure to thrive, and it's really sad. So for those of you who are lucky enough to have your loved ones at home, please don't forget how easy it is to touch their hand or, you know, put a hand on their shoulder. I love that you spent time talking about that, so thank you.
Yeah, because remember, when you give, you also get at the same time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Point. I see Miss Elena has asked, back when you were speaking about probiotics, she asked, is there a rule of thumb for buying probiotics, and is there a good snack for someone who is hypoglycemic?
Wow. Probiotics can come in many ways, and I think probably it's important just to find things that you feel comfortable eating. So certainly yogurts are good ways, and particularly the yogurts that have the more types of bacteria. We can also, of course, get pills nowadays, but kimchi is another good way. Kefir, sauerkraut, especially raw sauerkraut, it has so much bacteria and good vitamin C, which is also very beneficial. But I just couldn't put everything in that I would like to suggest. You know, there's so many things that I would love to have us all do, and I need to work on continually. But I would suggest that I can try to put together one that I can send to Kina to put in the newsletter at some point, or we can talk about that more when we talk maybe in a future time about different supplements. But I'll try to come up with a good answer on the hypoglycemia. The best thing I can say for this is the problem is don't take sugar doses or things like flour, starchy things, because it immediately raises our blood sugar, then we tend to crash as well. So we really want to be in that middle phase. And if we take good care of our digestive tract, it actually will help us with that. But certainly things that are higher in protein and whole grains, fruits and vegetables will help with those. And I really encourage, say, making, especially if you're going out to work or something, put a little bag together that has some nuts. Nuts are great. Maybe has a couple small carrots, a couple pieces of apple. And when you cut up an apple, share it with everybody. A couple pieces then can help your sugar go up, or spread it out during the day. Eat those pieces throughout the day to help increase that blood sugar. So hopefully that's a little bit helpful. And somebody else had raised their hand. Do you want to go ahead, or
yes,
or
Miss
ask it if I missed it?
I thought Miss Judy had her hand raised, and it looks like we may have just lost her. So I will
Okay,
reach out to her, and I may
Please.
email you separately.
Oh yeah, there she's back now. Okay. And
okay. Miss Judy, it says that I'm not able to unmute you unless I promote you to panelist. So I'm going to give you, or to give this a try, and let's see how it works.
Okay.
Okay, Miss Judy, are you there? I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, hopefully either she can type in a message, or again, if she can ask it later, or you can reach out to her. Okay. I'll be glad to send an email. I'm glad to respond to anybody when I can, and or have it put in the newsletter, whatever works for you, Kina.
That would be great. Does anyone else have any questions right now?
I'd like to ask Dr. Bob about cod liver oil. I was introduced to it through inflammation for the body. Mm-hmm. With some of the things you were saying about the brain and the neurons and stuff like that, mm-hmm. and fish oil or fish, is cod liver oil a little more than good for us other than inflammation?
And the answer is absolutely 100% yes. I'm a big fan of cod liver oil, fish oils in general, eating what we often call cold water fish, things like salmon, tuna, herring, a lot of those fish which are high in the omega-3 fats. I kind of believe, because I'm one person, oops, I moved that, that's okay. But I'm one of those who was raised where my mom gave us cod liver oil when I was young. And I remember that. It was something none of us liked the taste of, but cod liver oil came in a bottle, she'd pour it in a big spoon and stick it in our mouths. And back then as kids, we always did what we were told, right? Well, not always, but when we were given that, we took it and did that. So nowadays we have easier ways, and I would encourage you, if you're having trouble, I don't know if your cod liver oil is coming in pill form or other form, but basically any form of omega-3s that include DHA or EPA are very helpful at reducing inflammation. And there's multiple studies on multiple ways that it helps with inflammation. It also helps on brain function. So it actually can help these neurotransmitters function better. And we saw that listed in one location here. It also helps our brain rebuild our membranes. Remember, neurons are about 70% fat. And so basically you want to have a fat head because you want your brain full of fat, but you want to have good fat, which are these omega-3s, cod liver oil, fish oil, because they build a brain that actually can increase our IQ. So we can all actually become smarter by increasing our cod liver oil. By the way, cod liver oil or other fish oils also can help with people that have either high blood sugar or low blood sugar. It actually helps moderate that sugar. it actually helps make the cell membranes of even regular cells function a little better so that it can do its job. And it also makes the liver be better at detoxifying poisons that come into our body. And we get a lot of those toxins, by the way, from the drugs that we use. And that's one of the problems now with having so many drugs that we take. Most of them are also poisonous to some extent. So I hope that helped a little bit, William.
That was, yeah, that had to do with pretty much. I would ask you one more if nobody's pushing to get in here.
Okay.
Hold on one second, Bob. Miss Judy was able to rejoin.
Okay.
So before we lose her again, let's let you, Judy, ask your
Okay.
question.
Please,
Thanks.
and then we'll come back.
Thank you very much. I did want to ask, with exercise being so important, what helps to facilitate recovery after exercise?
What helps facilitate it?
Yes.
Well, I'm one that would suggest for most of us that we don't push the exercise so strongly that we actually cause much injury. But we do know that every time you use any muscle or part of your body, there is some damage to the cells and they do need to recover. So among the most important things, number one is hydration. That means water, okay? In my book, that means water. Also, you want to think about the fact that you do need some good proteins. And the proteins, if we have trouble digesting them, especially if we're on some of these medications for stomach acid, we need to get them in a broken down pattern. So don't be afraid to use what we often call protein powders. Or some of you might remember the old Knox gelatin. Well, gelatin is actually mostly protein. So find ways to do it and break it down. And by the way, even when we cook meat, the broth is rich in amino acids that can help us build and recover. So just having a good bowl of broth or a good bowl of soup can actually help that as well. Now, if you're going to do intense exercise, they actually are different studies that have come up with different answers. One was chocolate milk was one of the best for people that actually go to gyms and are trying to really build muscles a lot. But my goal and thing would be just stick with healthy diets, make sure you're getting the balance of what you need, keep sugars and starches low, and certainly reduce those bad fats like animal fats, and make sure you get a good night's sleep, because it's actually during sleep when you really get the recovery and you get the healing of the cells that have been damaged.
Oh, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. I hope that's helpful.
That has. Thank you.
Good.
Okay, Bill, back to your question.
You come back to me?
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, okay. I'm trying to up my inflammation reducing stuff, whatever that is, and cod liver oil, turmeric, green tea, things like that, because I have bursitis in my left elbow. And my doctor said that's a case of inflammation of the burrs. And so I'm assuming that the way to fight that without getting needles and everything stuck in there is to try to get this inflammation level up to dark green leafy vegetables, antioxidants, but is that also inflammation? Good for inflammation?
Yes, they can also help with inflammation as well in a variety of means. But again, the general issue of health, and all the things you suggested, I'm a big believer in green tea. Matter of fact, if you look at what I was drinking when I got on with Kina before we started, was I drink my cup of green tea every day. And you can drink multiple cups of green tea, by the way, which also helps reduce blood pressure and can then also reduce anxiety. So I'm a big believer in that. The fish oils, I'm a big believer in. I would also encourage you with other oils to go toward either the olive oil or grapeseed oil. Grapeseed oil is fairly expensive, but it takes more heat than olive oil can. So those are all beneficial that way. But then fruits and vegetables of almost any kinds can be helpful in that. And so I would certainly encourage that. So fruits, vegetables, nuts, whole grains to some extent can be very good for inflammation, but the more colorful the vegetables, and by the way, it's like for apple, the red or green outside is perfectly, in my mind, colorful. But lots of fruits and vegetables, especially more color, and dark greens are very helpful for a number of things. They may not be as strong an anti-inflammation as some other compounds. One that's in like watermelon and tomatoes is lycopene. And lycopene is good at reducing inflammation. It's particularly good at also protecting the eyes and eye health. And so the general rule is, to my mind, is eat the rainbow. Eat as many colors as you can every day, fruits, vegetables, nuts, and if you make that a good part of your diet and then use these additional things such as oil supplements, cod liver, fish oil, or even just more fish, I think we'll see that we can lower the inflammation as much as is possible at this point. And yes, your alternative with bursitis is not good. The bursa, of course, is that whole space there in the joint. And when you get to those final options where they have to inject basically types of gels in there, it's not great. So I might also suggest is that healing will occur if we give good healing and are sleeping well. So we do want to, again, get back to those proteins that Judy talked about. And if we can get them well digested, we can help build a little bit more, not only of the bursa lining itself, but of the, say, the cartilage that is next to it there. And if we can do a little bit more on building that, that also helps reduce then the damage and inflammation that will continue to occur.
Is the protein in black beans or pinto beans, is that good too or not?
Yes. Yeah, and there's actually a number of studies that show that many of these beans are somewhat anti-inflammatory as well, but I would encourage beans as a way to get a lot of your protein in, because actually we do know that beef and pork and chicken tend to be actually kind of the opposite. They tend to increase inflammatory conditions.
Whoa.
And so I won't say don't eat them, but try to reduce them. And the beans and nuts are a great way to go to help actually trying to encounter that. And black beans are one of the best. I eat black beans and dark red kidney beans quite frequently. In fact, my wife gets mad at me when there's a sale on. I tend to have my cupboard overflowing with those beans because they stay a good while and I can make almost anything with them. I love to make a good chili, whether I'm making it with meat or meat substitute, because I'm trying to be a bit of a vegetarian. I'm not strict. I'm not doing it for ethical reasons. I'm doing it because being a bit older than my wife, I want to make sure I can live as long and healthy for her and for my children. I mentioned I had a 13-year-old. So I need to take this seriously. What I'm preaching to you, I'm preaching to myself. I tell my students when I'm pointing at them, sometimes I'll pick on a student, especially if they have a can of soda in the classroom. I'll pick on them and I say, I'm picking on you, but notice I got 3 fingers pointing back at me. So I have to take it seriously, whatever I'm saying. And I have my thumb going up. And for me, coming from a faith background, I can blame God for anything. God can handle my frustration and my anger. And so I can point at him and be mad, but I've got to eventually decide what's right for me. And I have to make the choice and do what's right. I don't know if that helps. I'm trying to say it too quickly, maybe.
I'm using a tea right now that has turmeric in it. Mm-hmm. Is that a satisfactory way of taking turmeric?
I don't know of research on that, so I really can't give you a good answer that way. But I can tell you that I try to take turmeric pills. I don't have any currently, so I've been off for about a month. But next time I go and restock on things, I will probably get a couple bottles and have a couple months where I take the additional pill. And I also try to eat a lot of food that has curries or turmeric in it. And by the way, turmeric we find, of course, in yellow mustard. That's what gives it the yellow color. And the turmeric or curcumin, you'll often see it called curcumin, is also in most curries, especially yellow curries. And so we know that it helps that way. We also know that it lowers the risk for prostate cancer. And so, William, being a male, I would also encourage you to keep on the turmeric for that reason as well, because prostates are one of our biggest problems of men as we age. And you might be real young, but get on it and don't have the problems of things like BPH, right?
If you take the turmeric pills, I didn't know there was such a thing. Does that kind of help keep you from overcoming that burning that I get, that turmeric will give me in my mouth? Is that a good way maybe to avoid that?
Yes. Yeah, I would suggest pills if you feel a burning sensation. If you're getting burning too, you might be careful because there could be another chemical called capsaicin. That's what makes most chilies hot. Oh. So if you look at chilies, the capsaicin is actually the oil that gives it the spice, that real hot taste. And so I would also encourage you too, if you're getting a hot taste, don't be afraid to have something that has a little bit of oil in it. Hold it in your mouth. And the capsaicin and the turmeric are both oil soluble or fat soluble. And so you'll reduce the amount of these spices in your mouth then, and when you swallow them. They generally don't cause any problem for the stomach, though you'll see a lot of people complaining about things. But in general, you can take quite spicy things. And even the capsaicin can actually be anti-inflammatory as well. And so I would encourage you to eat as spicy as you feel comfortable eating. And then certainly with turmeric, I would encourage to increase it by going ahead and getting the pill. That's a great way to add it to the diet. And there is some data, a couple of research papers that do provide and show some benefit, particularly in reducing a compound called I'm going to forget the compound name. Sorry, my brain's going to jump out on me now. But it's C. It starts with a C, but it's actually the indication in our blood of inflammatory level. And give me a minute, it'll pop in. But if we can keep that level down, then the inflammation of almost all kinds is lower. So that's one good thing too. Your doctor can actually check for that level when they do blood tests. And sometimes they don't want to do it because they're not sure it'll be paid for, but I think it's worth that extra price. And I actually found my insurance does cover getting tested for it. And so I've been very happy that my level of that I'll submit that and send it to Keena later for that. But if we keep that level down, then we know that our inflammatory conditions are lower. And that helps, by the way, with all diseases, because almost all of our chronic long-term disease is tied into inflammation. So what we need to do is we need to reduce inflammation.
Yeah, I learned that in your presentation on inflammation. That's when I first found out what in the world it was all about. And since that time, I've been trying, because I don't know if some people's bodies just tend to have more inflammation, or is it what you eat, or are you, can you tell me that? Because I really think at 86, I'm having more problems with inflammation. And I feel like I'm feeling it in some of my joints and stuff. That could be arthritis, but that could also be inflammation causing more of the problem.
Yeah. Well, if you remember even the ending there, itis, I-T-I-S, that means inflammation.
Oh.
So whenever
okay.
you see anything with ITIS, it means there's an inflammatory response happening. And so, yes, inflammation will occur partly by aging. That's something, unfortunately, I want you to get more inflamed from. Okay, I want you to live longer and be with us, right? But also, even things like we're talking about today, when you are stressed mentally, your body creates these stress hormones. And so we have hormones like cortisol increase when we're stressed, when we're angry, when we're frustrated. So part of the reason for this today was actually trying to get rid of a lot of these things that increase our stress. So one of the things I would say, William, is try to relax, and that'll help a little bit.
Okay.
But keep learning little bits of all of this, because I think that's good in general, and every little thing we can do hopefully will make your life a little better and the quality better. And well, that's partly why I'm here, isn't it? Is I want to have that for myself, and I want to do it for others, because I'm pointing at you, but I'm also preaching at myself every time I do these talks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you know, I'm a caregiver for my wife, and I'm sure that's stress too, even though I don't think
yes.
I'm stressed, but I know I've got to be. And that could be in causing this inflammation that's starting to seem like bust out in different places on me. So you've been very helpful to kind of give me a list of things I can do to up the anti-inflammatory things that I wouldn't normally have been taking. So I'm trying to add those into my diet. So thank you.
That's
for
wonderful.
That.
You're very welcome. But let me go ahead and say this, though, very bluntly, because I prefer to be blunt and give information. What you said, when you have to take care of somebody, you will be stressed, even if you may not be aware of it. Stress comes in so many ways, but it is stressful when you have that responsibility and all the other related responsibilities of the household and other things that have come upon you. This is why we know that people who are caregivers tend to have more health problems that develop. And it does exactly. It comes from that cortisol and those stress reactions that build that all up. And that's why when Keenan and I were talking about topics, this is one of the things we need to deal with, is getting that stress down. And so all I can say is I'll pray for you, and I hope that the stress can stay under control to make your life more comfortable, and you can continue for a long time being a good caregiver. And we thank you for doing
You're
that.
helping me a lot. You're helping me a lot with some of the other presentations. I really appreciate you, Bob.
Oh, you're very welcome. I'm glad to continue with this to help keep adding pieces into this big puzzle. It's a big puzzle. It's hard.
Yes, we all appreciate you, Dr. Bob. Thank you for hanging in a little extra longer today. Thank you all for staying tuned in. As always, if you have any questions or follow-ups, don't hesitate to reach out to me. You can email me. I'm happy to reach out to Dr. Bob. And as you can tell, he's very willing to interact and answer your questions as they come to you. So we just want to wrap up today, but we look forward to having you, Dr. Bob, back soon. And you all just know that Dr. Bob is open for different topics, because he's, you know, kind of a wealth of knowledge, as you can tell. So if you have any thoughts or ideas for programs or things that you would like to learn about, please just let me know, and we'll see if that's a good fit for him and we can get him back, because we're always looking for excuses to get you back, Bob.
Well, thank you.
Okay, well, we appreciate you all being here.
Yes. Yes, thank you all. Have a wonderful day.
Have a good afternoon. Bye-bye.
Bye.